Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Crown and today we are going to have some more stories that I hope that you will enjoy. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now, without further ado, let's go! First story. Kevin needs a dictionary and gets an unexpected smackdown. This happened just at the beginning of the COVID madness and there were some legal issues involved that are now resolved. Here's a little background about me. I'm a tiny, somewhat older lady, 5 foot tall and 49 years old, who looks rather unassuming. Most of my adult life I've worked in probably every aspect of retail, from customer service to now owning a mid-sized retail sporting goods store with a couple partners. So I tend to give off that customer service vibe. I usually try to help people if I can, as long as they are polite. Also, I've been training in martial arts for more than 20 years and teach on the side as a way to give back to the community. My store is about a block away from a major big box retailer, rhymes with tool carts, and I often stop there because we always supply our employees with drinks and snacks to boost morale. Our management shirt, which is black and gray, with a red logo embroidered over the bucket. I also have a mask that says the name of our store across it. The uniform of the store I'm in is either blue or yellow vests with big glittering on the back. On to the tale. One fine morning on the way to my store, I stopped to pick up some soda and chips for my people and some janitorial supplies to hold me through until my next shipment arrives. It was early, so there were very few shoppers and not many employees. I'm filling my cart with soda, and because I have situational awareness, I notice a normal if somewhat budgy guy, we will call him Kevin, walking up the aisle towards where I've just finished loading a few cases into my cart. I thought he wanted some soda, so I moved on to the next thing on my list. I go to the next aisle and notice this guy has followed me. Inwardly, I sigh to myself as I can see from his stance and his eyes that he's not happy. Kevin trumps up to me very aggressively and says, "What is your problem? You just walked away from me. I need some help." Since I always try to de-escalate aggressive behavior, I put on my sweet voice and said, "I am sorry. Did you have a question about..." Insert my store name, which is written boldly across my mask. Kevin answers, "What? No. Where's the Diet Mountain Dew? Why would I want to know anything about that store name of yours, you stupid cow?" Well, maybe because I work there and not here. I have noticed that this store has not had Diet Mountain Dew for a while. Maybe you should ask an employee if they are back ordered. "Nonsense! You work here. I see you here every week." As he says this, he advances toward me, and I step back a few paces. "Sir, please keep your distance. We're in a pandemic." "How dare you? How dare you assume my pronouns? You're a piece of trash. Give me my Mountain Dew." I was taken aback a bit. I apologize for making assumptions, but it still does not change the fact that I do not work here. What would you prefer to be called? "I prefer he, him, his. And don't you forget it. Anything else is hate speech. I know you have Diet Mountain Dew in the bank. Now go get it for me or I will have you fired for being a hateful homophobe." Well, the word "sir" is a formal way of speaking to someone who identifies as he, him, his. Anyway, I still don't work here. I will go find you an employee. At this point, 2 mistakes were made. One by me and one by Kevin. Mistake number 1, I turned my back on an aggressor who was still agitated. Looking back, the only reason I can give is I just really wanted to get back to what I was doing so I could get to my store, and I honestly did not consider him a physical threat. Mistake number 2, Kevin put his grubby booger hooks on me. He grabbed my shoulder in an attempt to turn me around, I suppose. So at this point, 20 years of martial arts training kicked in, and somehow Kevin ended up face down on the ground in a hammerlock with my knee shoved into his back. Using my best martial arts instructor voice, I yell, "Attention, any employee. Please call 911 for the police. I have been assaulted." After a moment of shock, Kevin starts squealing, not yelling, not crying or cussing, squealing like a piglet. Suddenly, where there were no employees, there were at least 6 swarming us, including the manager. Since I had no idea what Kevin would do, I refused to release my hold on him until the police arrived. The local PD shows up, and I recognize one as a regular customer at my store, who has also expressed interest in me teaching his kid at the dojo. He looks at me and looks at Kevin, squealing on the ground, and I can see the amusement in his eyes. I let go of the squealing piglet, Kevin, and that's when his tirade starts, of course. "Oh my god, officers! This is a hate crime! Arrest her! Arrest her! She threw me to the ground because I'm gay! I only wanted to get some Diet Mountain Dew! She's a devil!" Officer looks at him, about 6 feet, 180 pounds, and then me, 5 feet, 97 pounds, and just raises his eyebrows. Since no one really witnessed what happened, I asked the manager if the officers could review their security recordings. The aftermath of the whole thing was this: we were both briefly detained. The officers reviewed the tapes and asked if I wanted to press charges in front of Kevin, which I declined to do. Kevin starts whining and saying, "It's not fair. She used hate speech against me." And the officer I know asked, "What did she say, sir?" And of course Kevin talks his nonsense and starts accusing the officer of using hate speech as well. They are better at de-escalating than I am and get him calm. One of the employees helpfully brought a dictionary up on their phone for poor Kevin. He reads what the word "sir" means and kind of crumples in on himself. I wish I could say it ended there. Unfortunately, Kevin finally figured out where I do work. He wrote reviews accusing all of us of homophobia. He began to call incessantly and made some threats that escalated into him coming to my store, causing some property damage and being arrested. And this time, I did press charges and sued for libel and defamation. And the officer signs his daughter up at my dojo. Next story. 5-year-old asked if this is a phone number for a retail store. This happened about 30 years ago. I was definitely the jerk in this situation, but in my defense, I was 5. My family's home phone number was 1 digit off from a sporting goods store in my town called Joe Jones. Naturally, we'd get a fair number of calls from people with a wrong number. We had caller ID, so my parents would see an unfamiliar number on the ringing phone and say, "Looks like it might be someone trying to call Joe Jones again." They would pick up and say, "Hello, I'm sorry you have the wrong number," and then just hang up and say, "Yep, Joe Jones again." Now, since I was 5, I failed to realize 2 key things about this situation. Joe Jones was the name of a store, not a person. Easy mistake to make. And that it was different people calling each time. Since my parents could always tell when it was a call for Joe Jones, I thought it was always the same number that they kept recognizing. I had only ever used a speed dial, ask your parents what that was, to make an outgoing call. So I assumed some friend of Joe Jones had just misprogrammed their phone to call us instead of him. I was really lazy about fixing it. I was annoyed that this person kept bothering us. Then came the day. My dad was at work and my mom was home with me. He was busy with something when the phone rang and asked me to answer it. I went over to the kitchen phone, reached up to pull it off the hook, and said hello. "Hi, is this Joe Jones?" I was finally talking to the person who had been bothering us. I summoned up all the righteous fury young me could muster and said very sternly into the phone, "No, he doesn't live here. Stop calling us." My mom jumped up and snatched the phone from me to apologize to the caller and smooth things over. After she hung up, she took the time to talk to me to make sure I understood what was actually going on and how to be polite over the phone. She was not angry. These days I always try to be polite on the phone, regardless of the situation. I think back to this incident as being the day I learned that lesson. Thanks, Mom. I miss you. Next story. Quit swimming so stupid. My grandson is copying you. It all starts with the most infernal of devices at the gym. The treadmill. See, a friend of mine who is basically a professional gym rat told me, dude, bro guy, you gotta up your cardio game. And insisted that a half hour on a treadmill every time I hit the gym would be a good plan. Life pro tip: when someone addresses you as a dude pro guy, seek a second opinion. Did the treadmill thing for a few weeks, and then I noticed anytime I went downhill my knee was like, hey, you're a jerk, stop that. Which was a problem, as I have a dog who likes to go on walks and where I live is not precisely known for its flat terrain. This was an issue. Then it got worse. Now it was down hills and stairs. Deadlifts, squats, leg press, no problem. Slide downhill, stairs, oh nah. Figuring knees aren't something one should ignore, and I met with my doctor. She promptly referred me to physical therapy and not a knee brace, like I was hoping. I met with a PT lady. She did an exam, said my quads are wonk and need work. I also discovered where my quads are. I was told to not do a lot with my legs at the gym other than bikes or swimming. All things being equal, I can swim. But I cannot swim for very long. Turns out, being out of breath and trying to get actual air in isn't as easy as it used to be. Especially when some fat jerk is splashing water all around. Until my lungs catch up with the rest of me, I've adopted what I call the fatty twirl. 4 or 5 strokes of freestyle. Roll into my back and then kick with the legs until I've got air in me. Then roll back for more and pray I haven't gotten close enough to the edge of the pool to smack my hands into it. I assume I'm doing well because the PT lady haven't given me that disappointed look typically reserved for dentists when one has forgotten to floss. But that brings us to yesterday. Normally I go in the morning mostly in the interest of avoiding shrieking children while I'm trying to do my thing. But work was nutty and I went later than I usually do. There were clumps of teenagers doing I don't even know what. But they mostly just snickered to each other and I minded my business. Now my dry part of my routine is done and it's pool time. I wound up taking a lap lane next to a grandmother in her 50s that was apparently trying to teach her grandkid who was 10 tops how to swim properly. I did not hear a whole lot, seeing as when my ears weren't underwater there was a fat guy splashing and making a bunch of noise. But I could tell the kid was splashing and coughing a lot, and this made grandma upset. I did not pay attention because it wasn't my business and there were lifeguards. I just wanted to get my laps done. Was on an extended period of back float time trying to catch my breath when I was ambushed by a pool noodle. Said noodle was applied directly to my face and not gently. While not painful, a noodle to the noggin is quite startling. I believe the first words out of my mouth were, "What the hell?" It was grandma wielding the noodle, as she was giving me a very stern look. "Watch your language, and stop doing that." I asked her what it was I was doing that led her to believe smacking me with a noodle was a good idea. She informed me that I was swimming stupid and her grandson wanted to copy me, so I needed to stop. After I confirmed that was in fact why I was assaulted with a noodle, I suggested that she might have better luck in the kids' part of the pool. You know, the one over there, far away from me. She said she was just fine here. I was the one causing the problem. I thanked her for her opinion and promptly resumed my swim. On my return trip, this woman stepped into my lane and grabbed my ankle. I don't know about the rest of you, but when I'm swimming and something grabs my leg, instant panic response. I immediately started flailing and kicking wildly. Trying to free myself. She got herself a nice adrenaline kick right on her forearm. I came up gasping for air and ready to start swinging. But I'm stopped by the soothing sounds of grandma wailing about how I just broke her arm. Edit. Her arm was not in fact broken. She wound up with a nasty bruise and that was it. I caught her with the top of my foot. Pro tip: top of the foot is a bad place to land a kick with. Naturally, that's enough to get the lifeguards involved, none of whom were apparently paying attention before she started screaming. Two of them are lifting Grandma out of the pool and trying to examine her arm while she's still wailing and flailing. A third is giving me static about kicking another guest in the pool. Well, they started to get angry with me until I pointed out where the kicking happened. The poor kid had frozen in place with an expression of abject horror. Once she connects the dots, she realizes I'm not the problem. I tell her I'm going to go get changed, and then I will identify myself to the front desk, because if I'm going to get interrogated, I prefer to be closed. I did my thing, and by the time I showered and changed, there was a manager at the desk apologizing for what had gone on. They reviewed the tapes, and that woman's membership had been terminated, and they are very sorry, and please do not sue us. That was the best interrogation ever. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.